Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to our biblical reflection course where we are studying the life of Jacob, specifically a story in the book of Genesis that we'll call Jacob and the Birthright. And we'll get right to it once again where we left off last week. I'm going to put up on the screen the text that I shared with you. It's a long text. We'll read through it quickly. We did this towards the end of last week's class, and I told you then by just simply reading this text, you are left with many questions. You just have to be. The verses are screaming out to you, question me, so that we can delve into it to try to fully understand what is really going on. Some of the stories of the Bible are straightforward. They're right there in front of you. They tell you like it is, and that's the way the story happened. Some of the stories of the Bible, like this one, challenges you to think, what is really going on? And as we will delve into it, we're going to delve into the characters. We're going to ask each character, what were you thinking? And as we go through all the four characters this evening to try to understand what they were thinking, we'll have a far better picture of this puzzling story of the book of Genesis. So hold on to your seats. Here we go. We're going to put up on the screen once again Genesis chapter 27. We're going to read the entire chapter on a quicker pace, and then we'll get into explaining it. Genesis chapter 27, verse 1. It came to pass when Isaac was old, and his eyes were too dim to see, that he called Esau, his elder son. And he said to him, my son. And he said to him, here I am. And he said, behold, now I have grown old. I do not know the day of my death. So now sharpen your implements, your sword, and take your bow, and go forth in the field and hunt game for me. And make for me tasty foods as I like, and bring them to me, and I will eat in order that my soul will bless you before I die. But Rebekah, Isaac's wife, overheard when Isaac spoke to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt game to bring it. So Rebekah says to Jacob, her son, remember they're twins, Esau is a few seconds older, behold, I have heard your father speaking to Esau your brother, saying, bring me game and make me tasty food, and I will eat, and I will bless you before the Lord before my death. And now, my son, hearken to my voice, to what I am commanding you. Every once in a while, I'm going to point out a key word that I'll come back to later. Notice she doesn't say what I'm asking you. She uses a much stronger word. She says, to what I am commanding you. Go now to the flock and take for me from there 2 choice kids, and I will make them tasty food for your father as he likes. And you shall bring them to your father that he may eat, in order that he bless you before his death. And Jacob says to Rebekah's mother, behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, whereas I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will touch me, and I will appear to him as a deceiver, and I'll bring upon myself a curse and not a blessing. And his mother said to him, on me is your curse, my son. Only hearken to my voice and go. Take them for me. So he went and he took and he brought them to his mother. And his mother made tasty food as his father liked. And Rebekah took the costly garments of Esau, her elder son, which were in the house, and she dressed Jacob, her younger son. And the hides of the kids she put on his hands, on the smoothness of his neck. And she gave the tasty foods and the bread that she had made into the hand of Jacob, her son. And he comes into his father, and he said, my father. And he said, here I am. Who are you, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you have spoken to me. Please rise, sit down and eat of my game so that your soul will bless me. And Isaac says to his son, how is it that you found it so quickly, my son? And he said, because the Lord your God prepared it before me. And Isaac says to Jacob, please come closer so that I may feel you, my son, whether you're really my son Esau or not. So clearly verse 20 led to suspicion of verse 21. What takes place in verse 20 is that Jacob speaks like Jacob. He says, because the Lord your God prepared it before me. Jacob talks that way. Esau doesn't talk that way. And therefore, Isaac, who's blind, can't figure out what's going on. So Jacob drawn near to Isaac, his father, and he felt him. Remember, the two are different in physical appearance as well. Esau has a lot of hair, and Jacob is smooth skinned. And so he feels him, and he says, this is strange. The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like the hands of his brother Esau, because remember, Rebekah put the skin of the animals on his hands so that it was furry, so that he felt the hair. And he blessed him. And he said, are you indeed my son Esau? And he says, I am. And he said, serve it to me, the food, that I may eat of the game of my son, so that my soul will bless you. And he served him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said to him, please come closer and kiss me, my son. And he came closer, and he kissed him, and he smelled the fragrance of his garments, and he blessed him. And he said, behold, the fragrance of my son is like the fragrance of a field which the Lord has blessed. And here comes the blessing. This was the blessing that was intended for Esau and now being given to the son in front of him, which we, the audience, knows is Jacob, but Isaac doesn't know it. He says, and may the Lord give you of the dew of the heavens and of the fatness of the earth and an abundance of grain and wine. Nations shall serve you, and kingdoms shall bow down to you. You shall be a master over your brothers, and your mother's sons shall bow down to you. Those who curse you shall be cursed, and those who bless you shall be blessed. Those are powerful blessings. And it came to pass when Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and it came to pass Jacob just left his father's presence, that his brother Esau comes in from his hunt. And he too had made tasty food, and he brought them to his father, and he said to his father, let my father arise and eat of the game of his son, so that your soul will bless me. And his father Isaac says, and who are you? And he said, I am your son, your firstborn Esau. Critical verse 33, pay attention to it. I'll come back to it later. And Isaac shuddered a great shudder. He starts trembling. And he said, who then is the one who hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate of everything while you had not yet come, and I blessed him. He too shall be blessed. Verse 33 is so puzzling. It is so puzzling in every single part of it. And yet we will analyze it. You will understand it. But remember it. Okay, I'll do it again. He shudders a great shudder. So something is happening to Isaac the moment he hears that Esau is now in front of him. And he says, who was the one that I gave it to? And I gave the blessings. And by the way, he is blessed. When Esau heard his father's words, he cried out a great and bitter cry. And he said to his father, bless me too, O my father. And he said, your brother came with cunning and took your blessing. And he said, is it for this reason that he was named Jacob? For he has deceived me now twice. He took my birthright, and behold, now he has taken my blessing. Which means now he tells his father about a story of years ago that we studied last week, that he sold the rights to the birthright for a pot of beans. And Esau says, have you not reserved the blessing for me? And Isaac answers and said to Esau, behold, I made him a master over you. And I gave him all his brothers as servants, and I have sustained him with corn and wine. So for you then, what shall I do, my son? He's got it all. And Esau says to his father, have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father. And Esau raised his voice and wept. And his father Isaac answers and says to him, behold, your dwelling place shall be the fat places of the earth and of the dew of the heaven from above. And you shall live by your sword, and you shall serve your brother, and it will be, when you grieve, that you will break his yoke off your neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessings that his father had blessed him. And Esau says to himself, let the days of mourning for my father draw near. I will then kill my brother Jacob. Verse 41 once again shows us the real personality of Esau, not the one that the father thinks he is, but one that's willing to murder his own brother. Rebekah was told of the words of Esav, her eldest son. And she went and called Jacob, her youngest son, and she said, round two, my son, guess what I got in store for you now? Behold, your brother Esav regrets his relationship to you and he wishes to kill you. Thanks to whom, Mom? And now, my son, hearken to my voice and arise. Flee to my brother Lavan to Haran, and you shall dwell with him for a few days. It turns into 20 years, but they don't know that yet. Until your brother's wrath has subsided. Until your brother's rage subsides from you and he forgets what you did to him. And then I'll send you a message. I'll send you an email, a text message, maybe a WhatsApp. It's time for you to come home. Why should I be bereft of both of you on one day? Why should there be a war between the two of you? And Rebekah says to Isaac, I am disgusted with my life because of the daughters of Ches. If Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of Ches like these from the daughters of the land, of what use is life to me? If he marries one of the Canaanite women, it's as good as if I'm dead. And therefore, we got to send them away to find a good shidduch, to find a good match. Genesis chapter 28. And Isaac calls Jacob and blesses him, and commanded him and said to him, you shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. I want to once again bring your attention to this verse. I won't talk about it much now, but I will talk a lot about it later. Read the verse with me, verse number 1. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him. And he commanded him and said to him, you shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. I want you to go to Padan Aram, to the house of Besuel, your mother's father, and take yourself from there a wife of the daughters of Lavan, your mother's brother. And may the Almighty God bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, and you shall become an assembly of peoples. And may he give you the blessings of Abraham to you and to your seed with you, that you may inherit the land of your sojournings which God gave to Abraham. Once again, spotlight and focus, verse 4. And may he give you the blessings of Abraham to you and to your seed with you, that you may inherit the land of your sojournings which God gave to Abraham. Okay, a lot going on, lots of questions. The best way we tackle the questions, because there are many, and thank you to all those that emailed me your questions. I will address hopefully every single one of them, either tonight or a continuation of next week. The best way for us to analyze it is to group our questions into questions on the different characters. So we're going to divide this into 4 for tonight. And we're going to ask all our questions about Isaac. And then we're going to ask our questions about Esav. Then we're going to ask our questions about Jacob. And then we will ask our questions about Rebekah. Let's start with Isaac. Remember, Isaac is patriarch number 2. He's Abraham's son. He's Jacob's father. He's also the father of Esav. He gives birth to twins. He and his wife give birth to twins. Esav is the firstborn. Jacob is the second. The Torah describes that there are different types of personalities. The Torah already described this to us in their pregnancy. The Torah informed us that there are 2 very different types of people that will form 2 different types of nations. Then the Torah defines for us the type of personality of Esav, the type of personality of Jacob. And the Torah used code words that will tell us, students of the Torah, their personalities. So when it says Esav was a hunter, he liked to hunt in the field, we know that personality because we were introduced to hunters earlier in Genesis, and they were not good people. Nimrod was not a good person. When the Torah introduced us to a hunter, the Torah is already defining for us that their personality is not one of holiness. It's one of aggressiveness and one of war, battle, fighting, taking. When the Torah defines Jacob, it tells us a man that liked to sit in tents. Sit in tents was meditation, prayer, study, spiritual. So the Torah used the 2 code words for the 2 sons to let us, the audience, know who's next in line. There was Abraham. Abraham gave birth to Ishmael and Isaac. It became clear that it's going to be Isaac, not Ishmael. And then Isaac has two sons, and it becomes very clear that it's going to be Jacob, not Esau. The Torah also informed us that there was a story that took place between these two boys, where Esau says, give me some of that pot of porridge that you made, lentil soup. And Jacob says, I'll gladly give it to you, I'll feed it to you, but the fact that you came out of mom's womb first means you're firstborn, which is a spiritual role that to play in this family. You're not interested in that. Sell it to me for the pot of lentils. And Esau says, of course I will. Who needs this? I don't need this burden on me. And he sells him the rights to the firstborn. Again, a simple story, but every story in the Bible is there to tell us something. The Torah also tells us that Isaac has a very special love for Esau. Makes it very clear. He loved him. He felt close with him. And Esau had a love for his father, a respect for his father. I told you the Talmud says that one of the greatest sages of our time said, if I only had 1/100th of the honor for my father like Esau had for his father, I would be a great man. So the question, Rebecca sees reality. Rebecca sees that Jacob is the spiritual one. We see it, right? We know it from what the Torah is telling us. Jacob is the one next in line. He's the one that's going to carry the torch. How blind can Isaac be between these two sons? One's a hunter and one's sitting by his side all the time saying, teach me about God. When it comes that Isaac actually is physically blind and wants to give a blessing to a son, why is he thinking about giving a blessing to Esau? He may like Esau, he may care for Esau, but it should be so clear to him, he still has his senses, it should be so clear that these blessings should go to Jacob. Why does Isaac want to bless Esau? Question number one. Clearly, Jacob is the more spiritual one. We'll start with answering this question. Isaac was not a fool. He was blind, and perhaps blinded by Esau, but not a fool. You know when one son is the spiritual one and one is the worldly one. You know that. He knew that. He saw that when he wasn't blind. He saw them when they were growing up. He even says it to him, go out in the field and get those animals the way you know how. He knows he's a hunter. Isaac is actually very smart. Isaac has a plan. It's a good plan. It's a plan we wish would have worked. Only it had no chance of working. And that Isaac didn't know. He thought he had a chance. Let's explain. Isaac must have thought to himself, why is God doing this to me? Why is God blessing me with twins, but with such opposite personalities, such a different focus of life? Why would God give me these two sons? And it dawns on him. If my son Jacob is going to be the spiritual heir to this new nation, to the chosen people, and this chosen nation at some point is going to establish themselves here in the land of Israel as a new nation with a mission to accomplish, they're going to face a lot of hostility. This world does not like hearing morality and ethics preached to them. So part of my family is being given a mission that will bring hostility upon their shoulders. They will need protection. Someone will have to protect Jacob. He's not a hunter. He's not a defender. He's not a fighter. He sits in tents and studies all day, and that's what the Jewish people will most likely be doing. They will follow the ways of Jacob and be sitting in tents, sitting in yeshiva all day, studying all day. Well, if you're studying all day, then you don't have an army. Then who's defending you? His twin brother, Esav. That's the plan. Esav, the strong one, the mighty one, Esav, the warrior, is going to become the protector of Jacob, the protector of Israel, the defender of the chosen people. That's why God gave me twins. There needs to be a partnership between my two sons, so that one is given material strength, physical strength, and one is given spiritual strength. And the mighty son, Esav, will protect the weaker son, Jacob, so that Jacob could fulfill his mission of being a light unto the nations, a preacher of morals, of ethics to the world, everything that Abraham had in mind, that God entrusted Abraham with to pass on to Isaac, to pass on to Jacob, will need protection in this world. And so, Isaac had no intentions whatsoever of making Esav the next patriarch of the Jewish people. That's a misconception completely. When he says, I want to give the blessings to my son, he's not talking about spiritual blessings. Proof? What did he say when he blessed Jacob thinking it was Esav? Not one word of the blessings of Abraham, not one word about inheriting the land of Israel, not one spiritual word. What was it? God should give you of the dew of the heavens and the wine and the corn, and you should be strong. He was giving him material blessings, blessings of wealth and blessings of strength. Why? Because he thought he was blessing Esav, and he wanted to give Esav those blessings. Be wealthy, Esav. Be strong, Esav. Why? Because the only reason God may have given me two sons was that you will be wealthy and mighty, and you'll protect your brother. That's what Isaac was thinking. Makes sense. But he was wrong. He was right in wanting it. But he was wrong because the reality was that Esav would have used that strength and might to destroy Jacob, not to protect Jacob. Rome did not protect Israel. Rome destroyed Israel. Rome burnt our holy temple. That's Esav. Esav used whatever might he had to constantly try to destroy Jacob. It should have worked that way. It could have worked that way had Esav utilized his free choice to say, brother Jacob, you got an important role. Let me be your partner. But that's not how Esav grew up. Esav grew up resenting Jacob, mocking Jacob. And that's why that story of the pot of lentils is so important, because the verse tells us he despised this birthright. What does that mean? He despised this mission. He despised spirituality. He despised godliness. He laughed at it. He mocked at it. That's how he blinded his father. That part he didn't show his father. That part he hid from his father. But you can't fault a father for dreaming and wanting this. It made rational sense. You think of it this way. The United States says to Israel, we will protect you. We will watch over you. You live in a hostile environment. You have a lot of enemies all around you. We will guarantee your survival. We will guarantee your protection. That's a relationship where one comes to the other and says, we recognize your spiritual value. We recognize the value of the chosen people. We recognize the value of the chosen people having an independent nation, and we will risk our own sons and daughters to protect you. Now, it hasn't always lived up that way. And Israel, very early in its modern day history, realized they need an army of their own because they cannot rely on any nation of the world for absolute protection. and they built a solid army and a good army, and they defended themselves against their hostile enemies and their hostile neighbors time and time again. Independent War, in the Suez War, and the 6-Day War, the Yom Kippur War, all the wars that took place. They relied on their own soldiers because they would not rely on that another nation will guarantee their protection. At the same time, we have to praise the United States of America because they have been one of the greatest allies for Eretz Yisrael, for Israel. And they have supplied much ammunition, much weaponry, much support, and much military knowledge. And as the decades have gone by, it's become more of a partnership between the two countries, where the brilliance of the Israeli engineers and the American engineers come together and create weaponry of brilliance that has served well for both countries. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful partnership. But that idea that Isaac had, whereas you Jewish people will just be able to focus on the spiritual, and another nation will take responsibility to protect you, it was a dream. It was a good dream. It's a nice dream to have. I would say it's a justified dream. It should have been that way. But history has proven we could never rely on anyone else for our own protection, but on ourselves and God. So that's Isaac. That's our understanding of Isaac. Let's get to Esav. Why is he so upset? Why is he crying? He mocked this right of the firstborn. He mocked it. All of a sudden he's crying, oh, Tati, you have something for me. Why? Well, for one, an egotist doesn't like to be outsmarted, and he was outsmarted by his brother, and he really doesn't appreciate it. Perhaps he realizes that my brother could never have done that alone. That must have been my mother. And that hurts. And your mother is in on it. It hurts. So there's real pain. But the more important answer is that when Asa finds out that these blessings were not spiritual blessings, they were material blessings. They were who will rule the other. They were about wealth. They were about power. That's what this was about. How dare he take my blessings? And he begins to cry and he begins to beg. And he does elicit from Isaac additional blessings for himself, which come back to haunt the Jewish people. For another time, we'll discuss that. But once he realizes that Isaac didn't say, and you shall be a holy people, and you shall be a chosen people, and you shall inspire people to be good, and your light shall spread to the north and to the west and to the south and the east, that he would have laughed at. Gesundheit, hate, you can have it. I don't care. But when he hears what the blessings were, he's infuriated to the point that he's willing to kill his brother. Finally, I would say about Esav, that the charade was over. And he knew that he could no longer go on fooling his father. He knew his father knew something about him now that his father did not know before. And the charade was up. And that's really, really disturbing to him. I want to get to Jacob. Jacob. For most of you that read the text with me, and perhaps read it for the first time or second time or even the third time, I'm going to guess, and because we're not in one room, I can't take a poll, but I'm going to guess he was the target of your thought process. You were disappointed in him. You were upset at him. You thought that he would respond better. Of you, I expected more. Perhaps. He is scorned and he is questioned about his actions by history. I know I've taught this story many times, and audience after audience after audience, when I teach this story, I've always said, how can he then become the patriarch of the Jewish people after what he did? He lied to his father. He disguised himself as his brother. He stole the blessings. I am here to tell you tonight with total certainty, I usually don't say that he is the only innocent character here. From all the characters, he did nothing wrong. Isaac we can question, Esau we can question, Rebekah we will question, Jacob, why do I defend him so much? His mother says to him, I command you. She uses a word, siva, command. You have no options to say no to me, she says. I am your mother. I am telling you this as a command. This is not about you. This is about me. I'm preparing the food. I'm dressing you. I'm putting it into your hands, and I'm pushing you through that door. I'm doing it, says the mom. And you must listen to me. And even after all that, he objects. And he says, this is going to bring a curse. You're bringing a curse on me. I'll do it, but you're bringing a curse on me. And she overrides the objection. And she says, on my shoulders is the curse, not on yours. This is my game. I'm playing this game, not you. You're just a prop. I'm using you. If you pay attention to the words of the story and the interrelation that's going on between Rebekah and Jacob, the Torah will continuously use a certain style of speaking. She put this in his hands. She put this on her hand. She put this on his neck. She did this. She did this. Not once does it say that he participated. And it uses that language. Every time the Torah uses a certain type of language, it wants us to understand, hint, hint, this is what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that he's an unwilling participant. He's being dictated to by his mother to do something that he objects to, that he doesn't want to do, that he's not comfortable doing, and he's forced to do out of respect for his mother. So he is always in the text, the subject of the action being done to him by his mother. And he remains himself in front of his father. True, he has to say, I am Esau, but immediately he starts speaking like Jacob. He's hoping Isaac catches on. I have to do what I have to do for my mom, but I'm going to talk like Jacob. God sent me blessings this way. And right away, Isaac says, 1 second, you're not Esau. You sound like Jacob. Jacob talks that way. Come here, let me touch you. And again, the mom charade is working because he has the hair that mom put on. And from that point on, he'll continue to speak like Jacob, not knowing what the father's conclusion he's going to have. And we see that it works to some degree, that Isaac is confused. Are you Jacob? He even uses the name. You sound like Jacob. And then Isaac makes a decision. Whoever you are, I'm going to bless because it smells great. Isn't that weird? It smells great in here, so I'm going to bless you, even though I don't know who you are. He will speak like Jacob even when disguised as Esau. And let's keep in mind, Jacob will suffer the consequences of this story, even though, as I said, he was instructed by his mother to do it. He doesn't just come out the winner here and get the blessings. That's not what happens to him. Esau is the stronger one. Esau wants to kill him, and Esau will chase him to kill him, to murder him. Jacob will run for his life. When it says we're going to send him away, the Medrash says it wasn't so easy. He literally had to run, escape, and Esau's son catches up with him. It just happened to be that he loved his uncle, and he didn't want to harm his uncle. And he couldn't come home for 20 years. He was afraid to enter the land of Canaan because Esau was waiting with an army to kill him. And after 20 years of hardship and literally exile and suffering by the hands of his father-in-law, he has to escape for his life, run for his life with his wives and his children, and come home to the land of Israel. And what's there to greet him? An army of Esau waiting to harm him and to kill him. He suffered greatly from this story, a story again that he did not ask for, he did not want to do, he is forced to do. The second time his father says, so who are you? He says, Ani, I am. He's doing everything he can to hint to his father, hey, help me here, Dad, I'm stuck. He doesn't want to violate his mother's wishes by saying, Mom made me do it, but I'm not really Esav, out of respect to his mother's command. But at the same time, he doesn't want to sound and mimic his voice like Esav. He won't do that. So that's why I believe that Jacob gets a bad rap on the story. Jacob did what he had to do because he was so instructed to do. Rebecca is the character of the story. Rebecca is the real mystery of the story. People miss it. And people miss how brilliant this woman was. She is the hero of the story. She is the unknown hero. And I'm going to play it out for you. I'm going to show it to you. No, it's not going to happen this week. We'll keep you in suspense, but I'm going to bring out first tonight the questions. And I'll just leave you with the statement that she is from the brightest women of the Bible. Let's start with Rebecca here. We'll just start tonight on the questions. Anytime you have any type of plot, any type of plan, right? You come up with a plan of what you're going to do. You have a crisis, right? You have a plan. You want to know that your plan has a chance of success. The better chance of success, the more you're excited about the plan. The smaller chance of success, you're saying, hey, at least I got to try. And then there is going for what we call the Hail Mary, right? That's in football when you got no chance, you got 2 seconds left on the clock, the quarterback is on the 10-yard line, he's got to throw a 90-yard pass just to tie up the game. Now, if you're a fan of that team, I think they nicknamed it Hail Mary because I think that means some type of prayer. I'm not sure it's a Jewish type of prayer. But so you say a prayer, hey, good luck, try for it, why not? What do you got to lose, right? And you go for it. You know, the one time that it makes it a season, perhaps it's the highlights and everyone will talk about it. But that meant that so long as there's 3 seconds on the clock and the team is only behind today's football by 8 points, there's still a chance you can tie it up. If you are behind by 9 points in the 3 seconds, there's no hope. You sit down with the ball and you end the game. What are you going to do a Hail Mary for? This plan of Rebecca has zero chance of success. Think about it. 0 chance of success. Jacob is right when he says it's going to bring a curse, not a blessing. What Jacob is saying is, Mom, this has 0 chance of success. What are you doing? And she says, you're going to have to trust me on this. You're going to have to trust me. Why does it have 0 chance of success? Because in a matter of minutes, Isaac is going to find out the truth. You can't hide that. Esav will eventually come into the room. There's no getting around that unless he gets eaten by some tiger. And I don't think she was relying on that. It has 0 chance of success because at some point, Isaac knows he was lied to. And remember, I say Rebecca is not stupid. She's very, very smart. Even in the worst case scenario, that she just loved Jacob more and John wanted him to get the blessings because he's my favorite son. What result could she be thinking would result from her silly plan? She must have realized that the opposite would come true. Once Isaac will find out, he's going to be angry at Jacob. And then when he finds out that Rebecca was behind it, he'll be angry at Rebecca. When you're trying to fool someone, your goal is to get away with it. Here, there's 0 chance of getting away with it. Ultimately, he's going to know he was lied to by Jacob. That doesn't bode well for Jacob. Furthermore, she's a spiritual woman. She's a holy woman. She's one of the matriarchs. She understands that blessings is not black magic. Blessings is not hocus pocus abracadabra. That blessings is a spiritual thing. And the source of blessings is God. It's not a gift of cash. It's not that come in and let me give you some diamonds or some jewelry. It's about blessings. May God grant you. So even if she fools her blind husband, she couldn't fool God. Why does she think that God would go along with trickery? Why does she think God would go along with deceit? And if she thought this was a legal transaction of sort, then we know there's a law within Judaism, and it's a law within all society called mekach tos, a transaction made under false pretense. The deal is nullified. You sell someone, you tell them you're selling them a Ford, and you give them a Toyota, unless you like the Toyota more. But you can't do that. You can't make believe it's one thing and not and give the other. The deal is nullified. So the blessings would be nullified. So what if Isaac gave the blessings? I gave the blessings because the guy in front of me said he was Esav, and he lied to me. So the blessings are now, boom, canceled. Let me give it to you, the next son that's sitting in front of me, because he was honest. He's really the real guy. That's the outcome. Those blessings would be meaningless once Esav walks into the room. And even if for some odd reason you say it still will have validity, the moment Isaac finds out the truth that Jacob lied to him, he just takes it back. The discovery of the masquerade was unavoidable. That's my closing question for you tonight. Remember, I tell you that Rebecca is brilliant. I tell you that Rebecca knew full well what she was doing. And I tell you that the discovery of the masquerade was unavoidable. You think about it all week. How does this all come together? How do we get out of this, so to say? And we get out of it in a beautiful way, in a beautiful teaching. The whole story begins to really make sense. You guys have a wonderful week out there. Hopefully you'll join me Wednesday at 12:30 for the Chosen People. Look forward to having you, and then we'll see you back Monday night for the conclusion of the story of the birthright of Jacob.